Ever wondered what it really takes to turn a passion for sports into a thriving business that helps people move better every day? On this episode, I sit down with Clarke Tanner, founder of Thrive Physical Therapy. Clarke's journey from lifelong athlete to clinical director and now entrepreneur gives him a unique perspective on building standout patient experiences, tackling business challenges, and redefining what physical therapy can be. Get ready for practical insights on mentorship, team building, and the daily habits that fuel both personal and professional growth. Today, we are sitting down with Clarke Tanner, founder of Thrive PT. Welcome, Clarke. Happy to have you here.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate being here. I'm excited to talk to you.
All right. So, Clarke, take us back to the beginning. What first sparked your interest in physical therapy, and how did it evolve into launching Thrive?
Absolutely. Well, I was a lifelong athlete, did football, motocross racing, you name it, through my youth. And I played football in college. And so I was always really fascinated with just how the body worked. I think I always knew I would be in something working with the human body. And when I was in college, I was studying exercise physiology around how the body worked and all of that, right? So I was pursuing that, but I wasn't entirely sure what direction I was going to go. And I took a class, it was called Prevention and Care of Athletic Injuries. And it just looked interesting. And so one of the requirements was working 40 hours in the field in a sports medicine venue. And so during that process, I was playing football, it was during springtime. And so I had to do the 40 hours, put it off to the end. And I had 40 hours to get in a fairly short period of time. So this was a 4-day wrestling tournament that was a qualifier for the Olympics. And so I ended up being there like all hours of the night. And there were times when had to look at people. So even though I was not that experienced, you had to be able to make a decision. They had like 60 seconds to make decisions on whether they could continue to wrestle or they couldn't. And so I had to figure out what was going on with athletes. And I was like super busy, and I just loved figuring the puzzle pieces out, like, trying to figure out what was going on. Fast forward, I added sports med as a second major, and then ended up at the University of South Florida working in the sports med department and worked with teams as a strength and conditioning coach, and also in the athletic training program. And found what I really loved was when I was in the rehab clinic, and when I was actually, people would come to me and I was trying to solve whatever their issue was, and I had something to do. So I love that. I was like, this is what I want to do. And so I took prereqs and decided, all right, physical therapy is the route I'm going, and just dove in. And it's been a great profession for me, and I've really enjoyed. I'm lucky to have found something I love.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and you had started as a clinic director, right? So right
Right.
out of school. Okay.
Yeah,
What did that experience maybe teach you? Maybe both things of like what to do, what not to do.
absolutely. So my first job out of school was a clinic director with at the time it was the biggest outpatient physical therapy company in the country. Yeah, and I had the reins from day one, which at that time I had no idea what that really meant. But I enjoyed it, and I had complete control in terms of how we practiced, which was nice. So to some degree, I grew up, kind of on my own, figuring out how to make things work, how to make a difference with people, how to get people better. And I learned, there was a lot of things that were really good about how that shaped me clinically. And I'll give you an example. I would fill in sometimes at other offices, not my office, but other offices. And they were a little more modality driven. And I remember this one particular gentleman that I looked at, and he was coming in, he was being treated for shoulder issues, and had a conversation with him, and he had been coming for 6 months. I said, well, okay, how's it going? And he says, well, it's kind of somewhat close to the same. And I looked at him and figured out what was going on. And it was actually his neck that was creating the problem, and worked on him on that day. And, he was 70% better in that moment. And so fast forward, he ended up eventually came to my office, but it was different. And all it was really examining him and figuring out what was going on. What was real? It wasn't even a hard thing to figure out. It was just good exam skills and figuring out that his neck was the thing that reproduced his shoulder pain, not his shoulder, which is kind of PT 101. And it really, but I also saw what it was like to have an environment where, the quality of the team that you have really matters, and the values and the objectives that you work with really matters, because that's what creates the environment, which creates the interaction with patients. And in terms of how you actually practice matters, doing a good examination, how you connect, how you figure out what is happening, your process, how you go about what you do. And so I think I learned how I wanted to practice in terms of, you know, really doing a good exam, really doing a good job of figuring out what all is happening to the issue with the person and the person that is in front of you in that moment. But also in terms of like what it's like with the team, and to create an environment where that team can engage it, and team can engage, connect with people. And that could be the challenging thing. And I saw it from a business standpoint. So I saw what I want, how I wanted to practice, and was discovered that, but I also discovered, okay, making that come to life in a business setting and being sustainable, and the environment you needed to create for the team to be able to stay. At that time, there was a lot of therapists that were leaving the company I worked with. Eventually I did too. So I think I learned a lot about how I did want to practice, but I learned a lot about the environment that I needed to create if I had the chance, in terms of not only how you practice, but also how you develop the team, so that you keep the team and you nurture the team, so that you're taking care of them, because that is your product over time. And I saw that happen. I saw a lot of clinicians leave, and then I saw one that was quote unquote one of the more successful offices in the town I was in, by the standards of this company, and they eventually lost their referral sources because they just weren't as effective with people. So you have to be good at what you do, and it has to be sustainable from a clinical team and the team you build, but also from a business. The model needs to support healthy people.
It sounds like there was definitely a lot of learning in that. So, I
Oh,
mean, just being able to go to multiple locations to serve and help out, whatever the case be, if somebody's absent or they just need extra help. And then, you had some wake ups around things that you like. I don't want to do that in my own kind of thing. And
yeah,
it's like, oh, maybe I'm sure there's some good ideas too that you learned, like, I want to apply this. So think, yeah. So thinking back, and I know you touched on some of this, but like when somebody walks into your practice, you guys offer this different type of PD experience. So maybe share a little bit more on like what's it like if somebody's walking through your doors.
sure, absolutely. So, first off, what the research shows in terms of how well someone does is very much backed up in how much of a connection do you create with your provider. Does the provider understand the problem? And then also, do they get me? Do they understand me? And that has a huge impact on how well someone does, right? So when somebody comes in to see us, we want to make sure that we spend the time and we really do connect with people. And that comes with what questions do you ask? How do you engage your body language in terms of what that's like? And then how you do the things you do. It's like, how detailed is your exam? Do you ask connecting questions like what do you think is going on? What are you worried about? What are you concerned over? What do you think is contributing? Because it's a person that is having this issue. And so the more you can kind of connect with that, and then doing a really good detailed physical exam, which there's components of that, but also looking at that umbrella of what's happening with the person in terms of their lifestyle and those sorts of things. And it's like wanting to do that well, wanting to collect that information, wanting to connect with that person, and having a team that can actually do that. And that's been a huge part in terms of what we tried to craft for our company. And that's part of what creates the different environment.
So your team focuses heavily on solving the root cause of an issue, not just like the symptoms.
Yes.
Can you share maybe some specific, can be an example or examples where this philosophy made all that difference?
Love to, love to. Straight up, it makes all the difference in the world, right? So, like, to take you back to the example I gave you earlier, the gentleman reproduced his symptoms with his neck motion, not his arm motion. So, if you're working on the shoulder, which was what ends up, if you're working on the shoulder when it's really the neck creating it, well, a lot of times you're not taking the route that's going to solve the problem. And the example I give on this a lot is people will come in with a knee problem and expecting you to work on the knee. Well, a lot of times people have an ankle that doesn't move very well, and they have a hip that's not not very stable, and that causes their movement patterns to be such that they're putting more stress on the knee, and the knee is the thing that becomes painful because of what's happening in the environment it lives in. So the way that you solve that problem is by addressing the ankle, by addressing the hip. A lot of times you'll get the knee to be will calm down and heal, and you never actually touch the knee. Now, sometimes it's something that is actually in the knee and you need to address the knee. Sometimes it's the bigger environment. It's they're not sleeping, they're not recovering very well. There's other things that are happening, and it's the bigger umbrella. And sometimes you have to figure that part out. So it's just wanting to go there and then being able to do that effectively.
And then leading into that, like you guys offer full 60-minute sessions,
Yeah.
which excuse me, it's rare these days. I think often that's usually just the assessment part. So why is this time such a crucial piece in delivering results and building the trust with your clients, with your patients?
Well, I think, it comes down to actually having the time set aside to actually be able to figure out what is happening, to actually be able to connect and talk with the person. Like I think if you are very rushed because of workload or whatever is happening, it just makes it's a harder environment. So I don't think, unfortunately, like, yes, we all have to work hard, and productivity is something that is absolutely necessary. And, if we're going to keep our offices open, you have to be able to keep on pace. But I think in the medical industry in general, the pace of it keeps getting faster and faster. So I think if you're going to be able to figure out what is happening with someone and figure out the person, you absolutely have to have time. It's very difficult to do effectively.
And yeah, I would think that, just feeling rushed, and not at ease. And especially if it's like, I get it, like on a first time assessment, maybe you don't even know this person. So it's even just trying to build a little bit of rapport. And if you're like, check, 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 just checking your box and you're just trying to hurry through, it's building that rapport in the beginning too is encourages people to like hopefully want us to go through the program and get through this. It's not just a necessarily a quick fix, but they're just building that relationship with them early on instead of waiting down the road and then they're like, they weren't interested and they leave kind of thing.
It literally starts with the first phone call to your practice in terms of how the person engages. And then when they show up, spending time, making eye contact, listening to that person and establishing the relationship, having the time to let them tell their story, answer questions, figuring out what the person needs to know, what they're worried about, and then being able to spend time figuring out what is happening, communicate what is happening, and then guide and educate. Like if you don't have connection, and you don't have time to develop that, and you seem like you're busy or you are busy and you don't give them that time, then they don't connect, they don't trust you, and then they're not going to want to come back, quite frankly. It's like, and a lot of times, you okay, like I talk about this a lot, but you do something from a manual correction, you help them feel different in that moment. Well, that makes them feel different. That creates the hope that it can actually feel different. That creates the connection. And now they want to come see you, to where now I can educate you on what you need to work on to really solve the problem. And so you can't do that in a chaotic environment when you flat out don't have time.
Yeah. Well, you touch on something too. It's like that feeling of if the other person is in a hurry or like they don't really have time. And it's almost like putting on that face, like even if you don't have time, you're still there, you're still trying to support them. You're not thinking about the time so much. It's like, or trying to make them feel like this is a rushed experience too. Cause I'm sure that doesn't sit well.
Now, people are smart. People are
They pick
smart,
up
and they
on
can
it.
feel it. Like, they pick up on it
Yeah.
really easy. And so, you have to create that environment for the staff to be able to do that. And you have to create that environment so that the person really feels listened to, and that, that connection does happen. And it's very important, because if you're going to get anything done, you have to have faith in the plan. You have to have faith in the person that's talking to you. You have to feel like there's some understanding of each other as people, and then that creates the stage for positive changes to happen, and the ability to even follow the plan. Like, if you don't believe in the person, well, how are you gonna, are you really gonna listen to them? Probably not.
Yeah. You're going to go home and do the things you need to do. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does your team address not just the physical movement issues, but maybe the larger lifestyle components, like stress or sleep or nutrition?
Awesome question. Well, so first off, I think one, it comes out in the specific question you ask, like what do you think is contributing? Like what is it? What's happening? What are you worried about? And what do you think is contributing? Because a lot of times people do have some pretty good insight. Well, hey, and they'll volunteer. Well, I'm pretty stressed because I've got this is going on with my family, or I'm not getting any sleep. Like a lot of times they will just volunteer that. But the other thing is you have to literally ask. It's like, okay, like we know what good lifestyle habits are. We know what our body needs in terms of nutrition,
Yeah.
sleep, all of that, water intake, all of that. So what you do is you literally ask, okay, you start at the beginning. How much sleep do you get? Do you real like you literally go down the thing based on what they say or don't say? You
Mhm.
specifically ask those questions, and you have to consider it and value it and know it's important. But the other piece is you just directly ask and then get feedback from them. What do they think? Is it an issue? Is it not? Okay, I care about this. I don't. And then if it's something they aren't thinking about, then helping educate them on why that is important and could be contributing to the issue. So
Okay.
so it's
Interesting.
wanting to go there and then setting up the stage and actually going there.
Okay. So after 20 years, what's been one of the most unexpected challenges like you've had to navigate as a business owner in this space?
Yeah, gosh, straight
I'm sure
up.
there's a lot.
Quite I mean, COVID was one of the surprises, right? But that was relatively late in my career. I think the big thing is like, and I think this is a common challenge that we all face. And if you're a insurance based practice, as we are, all that has ever happened is reimbursement has always just gone down. Our contracts, we're the small guy. We're hard to compete because we're not big company that has a lot of clout to negotiate contracts. And so we get what they kind of give us. So reimbursement has always done this, whereas expenses and everything else has always gone up. And that affects many things, whether the salaries you can pay, the marketing you have, like all kinds of that all affects your cash flow. So that is definitely a challenge. And so you have two routes that you kind of go is you have to kind of go maybe full cash pay. You're starting to see more of those nowadays, but
Or a
those have their
hybrid.
own problems, quite frankly. Um, or you try to build more cash pay services and give more into a wellness, and that's kind of the route we've gone. Our thing is to try to have a really big impact on people, and so it's just how to generate income in an ever challenging environment and do it independent of what's happening with insurance companies, and being able to get people to value their healthcare and create programs around things that they need that they're interested in, and that's the route we've
Yeah.
gone.
Okay, interesting. And then how would you say, or how did you go about developing the business skills you needed to match your clinical expertise?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Well, so first off, I think it was what part A. There's a bit of a sequence, but I think part A is just the mind shift of hey, like having a skill set as a clinician, you work very hard to develop clinical skills. And so once you're in business, you realize there are a whole bunch of other skills that you really need to actually to be able to create the vision and to be able to practice the way you want to. Well, this is a whole nother set of skills. And so you have to completely embrace that idea and be as aggressive about trying to pick up those skills. So for me, it was lots of just studying, learning wherever I could. And then eventually I went into a mastermind program where literally people from all over the world that bigger practice than me, smaller practices than me, cash
Yeah.
pay, all hybrids, all kinds of things. And I think that was a big accelerating thing for me. One, to see other
Okay.
people doing it well and to be able to
Yeah.
ask the questions and have conversations. But the other is just seeing, oh, these are people that are making their businesses. It's a reflection of the person. And so you have to go after and embrace this because you got to pick up, just like you had to learn PT skills, you have to learn business skills to be able to maneuver and make good decisions. And that is just as fun.
Yeah, or even what it is that you want to focus on, right? It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, you might, I hear it's common that we'll treat anyone, but at the same time, but there's like maybe a couple things that they really enjoy or they
Yeah.
really want to focus on. So, and I think that's different for everybody,
Yeah.
so yeah. So, okay. What's maybe one misconception you hear about physical therapy or people hear about physical therapy?
Well, I think it's shaped by whatever experience they've had, right? So they've gone somewhere it either helped or it didn't, and their perception is whatever model they were exposed to. And the one that I get a lot, have seen over the years is, well, I went in to see the PT. I ended up seeing the PT a little bit. I ended up working with a tech, and what they taught me was exercise. And I would go in and do my exercise program that I do at home. I would do it in the office. And so so I think the perception is, one, that it is primarily exercise that people need, which is a very valuable tool. But the other part is that is what therapy is all about. Therapy is about exercise. It's about many different components. Done well, it's education, it's hands-on corrective work, all of those things, and it is extremely effective. But a lot of times it's overcoming that perception, sometimes negative perception, of what that is. And I've seen a lot of people, they go in and it's hot packs and it's ultrasound and it's exercise, and that's it. It's just repeat. And that to me is not necessarily PT done well, in my opinion. And I've seen masterful things done, and I've seen what can be done with a fairly simple approach. And our
Okay.
decision has been, we don't have aides, we don't have techs, and we approach it a certain way.
I was gonna say, how do you maybe push back on that through the way Thrive operates?
Yeah, well, so a couple things. One is, we do not have aides and no techs, no nothing, because guidance and education and how people move, and the exercise prescription and progression and the corrective work, the therapist is the skilled person at it, and can deliver it. It's not about exercise and the same thing all the time. It's about progression, giving, taking away. It's a very dynamic thing. So every part of it is a very skilled and precise thing. And so we've made the decision to try to create the time to do that, and also to stand back and be like, okay, we're not going to have a bunch of we're not going to have a lot of aides and techs. It's going to be therapist room care, so that the therapist, you two have a relationship, and everything that's done or not done, you guys both know about it. So you create an alliance of working together. And we try to educate people on that, and create a different situation. People feel it right away. People feel it,
Yeah.
and they're like, this is different and this really works. And so that's been fun to see over the years, but it's been by design.
Okay. All right. So I would say, with so many, clinics popping up, and I feel like maybe you've already kind of said this in a lot of ways, but what makes you guys more like kind of stay relevant and impactful after two decades?
Yeah, well, I think there's a few different components there. One is, we have successfully helped a lot of people over the years. Like, we've gotten great results, and we've consistently gotten great results, and people feel cared for when they come. And so they come back. Their family comes back. They send their friends. Every month, 40% of in all new patients we get are returning people. So that we've been able to do that based on our work and how we do our work. So I think that's part of how we've stayed relevant, by caring for Richmond and caring for the people. But also, in terms of over time, we've built programs that help address people's specific problems. Like, we've got one that's around our version of fitness, that's movement based. We've also got the Transformation Academy, which that's around trying to help people with the lifestyle part, and nutrition and water and sleep and all the lifestyle habits. And so those have all developed off of a desire for people to just really do well over their lifespan.
Okay.
And we've got good insight on that. And so I think evolution of the practice, that's been driven by helping people, that
Mhm.
also has helped us be more successful as a company.
And so you've mentioned having these different programs and stuff, and what is your approach, and maybe even mentoring and your leadership inside of Thrive?
Love it. So first off, we love younger people and trying to help people, guide them towards things that are helpful, right? There's a lot out there, so trying to help that. So we have built that into our system. So every week we have I'm trying to think of what the name of it. It's personal and professional development. It's called weekly strategic planning, where literally it's a sheet of paper that we sometimes do on a in a digital format, where it talks about, what is it skill you're trying to work on learning? What are your key major objectives? And then what from a lifestyle thing is either stressing you, or what's something you want to work on personally. So And we set the time aside for that. And that is part of what we integrate. Like, we want to help people with the personal development side of things, the professional development side of things, but we are respectful of the fact that the undercurrent of what's happening in our life is part of what affects us at work. We try to give people time to think about that. And then every week we close down for 2 hours and we go over, we do training stuff, we do lifestyle stuff, like all the stuff we try to encourage that we teach, we talk about as a team and try to foster in the team so that our product, we live our product and it's built into our systems.
All right. Yeah, I love it. So
That was
you
never something I ever had, ever, ever.
that's amazing. Yeah, and the fact that you didn't have it and that you stepped up and you're like, I want to do this. I
Yeah,
want people to have this. This is what was
yeah,
missing.
yeah,
So you had talked about your calibration appointment every morning.
yeah.
I love that. Can you walk us through your morning routine and how it impacts your day?
Sure. Well, first off, couldn't imagine not doing it. I've been doing it kind of for years. But calibration appointment really kind of encompasses three major parts. One is the physical side of things. I every morning do some version of like, and it varies in terms of time I have. I try to obviously have more time, but there's a movement part, physical part where it's core work, mobility, whatever, and that's usually 15 to 20 minutes on short days, longer when I have it. Then it's breathing and visualization. So whatever goals that you're working towards, whether it's a skill you're working on, you work on the mental side of that, like building the belief of that. And there's a way to do that. And then the planning side of that is, you know, we use, this is part of the journal. We have a journal where I plan what the day is going to look like and I map out what the time is going to be. I do that on a weekly, but I do it every morning where it's like, here's the goals, here's what I'm trying to work on, this is what I plan for the week. And then, so that's the cognitive part of trying to create structure with your time. Working towards the goals are important. And part of that is professional, but part of that is personal, part of that is family. And so it's movement, it's visualization and breathing, and then it's planning and structuring of the time so that you move towards the thing that you want. And it could be as short as 15 minutes, it's sometimes an hour, it just depends on what kind of time I have, but it's something that I do without fail every morning. And I
I was going to ask you, like, how much time do you
every
do?
morning, yeah, I got up, I get up, some days I get up like a lot of 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning I get up. Now some days I have to get
Okay, you're
early.
in that club. You're in the 5 o'clock club.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, but if the time varies, and then thinking back to before you like had a habit of doing that, because I
Yeah,
know you've been doing it for a while, did you like schedule it? Like, how did you? Because I would imagine, you might have some off days, or you might start it a little bit later, but or maybe you're that good at it. Every day you're on it. But did you find by maybe even coupling or pairing it with something else, like, I don't know, a cup of coffee, and like I'm gonna do the coffee and the journaling. Like, did you do
yeah.
something like that that helped you?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it morphed into something. It used to be lists, and then I realized that the lists never gave me like a whole lot of structure to what I was thinking, and it always was sort of defeating because I didn't feel like the list. I would look at the list and be like, "Oh my God, I can't get all that done." So I started to
Okay.
change the planning, and I started to break that down to three things. So eventually, it got more precise in terms of how I was actually using my time and what I was trying to do, and thinking like, "Okay, I got a lot of these things to do, but what's important to do now?" And then I would write it on my calendar, plan it for the week, and then I got where I would write it in on each day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I would actually plan it based on when it's quiet. I would plan it. I plan it on Sundays. It's usually Sunday afternoon,
Okay.
um, and
That's
then
a good
it
tip though.
go from there.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
have to do when you're out of the chaos. Like it's harder to do on a Monday morning once your feet hit the ground. You're
Oh
in
yeah.
the office, and now things are already starting to happen. You're not as clear thinking. So I try
Yeah,
to,
and you can't kind of just like tune everything out because there's stuff going on, and you
yeah,
can't tap into, even if it's like that creative time. You're like, okay, what do I need to do that's gonna impact my business?
you have to control your time, but I also think sometimes people think, well, working out to me, is okay. To me, a workout is an hour. Well, if I don't have an hour, then I don't work out. Well, that's not it. It's today you might have 5 minutes. Great. You can get a lot done in 5 minutes that is very helpful to you. if you're precise, and then don't let that thought of 60 minutes being a workout stop you from being five minutes of a workout that is really helpful, and you keep the habit. So you have to kind of know what's happening, and it's not about necessarily exercise. It's about what you do with your day, do with your morning. It's how you shape things you do all the time, and you
And I like that you said try
morph
to be
into
more
that over time.
precise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If listeners walk away remembering just one thing about you or Thrive, what do you hope it is?
Just that we try to give people a a really complete picture of what it takes to go to live an active, fulfilling life, really. It's like, how do you do that from 20 years old to 80 years old? And there's different components of that. We try our best to give people the skills that they really can get that done well, from a fitness standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint, sleep standpoint, like lifestyle habits, all of that, getting the body working well. There's a lot of layers to that. But I think we do that better than anybody else does. And that's been hard fought, but also we work very hard at doing that well. And I think we do.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing this. It's been super insightful. I appreciate your time. Tell people where they can connect with you or learn more about your work.
Yeah, no. And then if you have questions, you want to talk to me, you can get through those links, and also my email. I'm always delighted to have some Clarke with an E at thriveptva.com. So it's the same thing. So love
Excellent.
to talk to people.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Wellness Growth Show. If today's conversation sparked something for you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the stories, strategies, and insights from the front lines of wellness innovation. If you're a founder, operator, or health leader exploring growth into institutional markets and have a story worth telling, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out directly on LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you found this valuable, share it with a peer or post it online. You never know who needs to hear it. Until next time, stay well, keep moving, and keep building what matters.